And what's up? What's up? Welcome in GC Live. I'm Wes Mitchell. He is Chris Clark. We are brought to you by Affordable Medical USA at affordablemedicalusa.com. Home of the game day chair. They're at 803-926-1493. Welcome into the show. It is, I believe, Wednesday. Last I checked. Happy Thanksgiving. No Thanksgiving show tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and tell you all happy Thanksgiving. Welcome into the show. Happy Gamecock basketball today. We'll have Collyn Taylor, our outstanding beat writer, on a little bit later on the show to talk a little bit of women's and men's basketball. The women's basketball team, depending on if you are watching us live right now or listening later on, is either currently beating the heck out of College Charleston or earlier today did that, depending on, again, when you're listening or watching. They just, I think, went over the 114-point mark in that game, last I checked, and still counting. So very impressive. Lots of expectations for both Dolan Staley and Frank Martin's basketball programs this year. So we'll have Collyn on to talk about that a little bit later on. Football team with Georgia on Saturday, obviously, and South Carolina's coaching search, Chris, carries on. That's taken up, I think, most of our time these days, and it's rolling right along.
It is, man. It's been another, some more long nights covering the coaching search. You and I spent a little time on the phone last night, once again, talking through some things about this coaching search late night update on GamecockCentral.com's The Insiders Forum. If you head to the Insiders Forum, got an update there for everyone. And yes, still working through it. A little movement last night, too. Some interesting stuff coming out with Scott Satterfield, sort of a day of reckoning in Louisville, I guess you could say, with the AD there, Vince Tyra, coming out saying that Scott Satterfield will not be interviewing at South Carolina. There's been more to that situation. We've been sort of covering that one on GamecockCentral.com, but that one sort of came to a head a little bit last night. But yes, still movement. Still candidates on the board, and still, I think, Wes, progressing in a pretty good fashion towards the finish line of this coaching search at some point in the near future.
No doubt, man. And by the way, if you are a regular reader of Gamecock Central, we apologize for any inconvenience right now. There is actually apparently a large portion of the internet today is being affected by this Amazon Web Services. That's sort of like a platform that a lot of major websites are built on top of. It's like the infrastructure of a big portion of the internet. So if one of your favorite sites, hopefully we're one of your favorite sites, but if any of your favorite sites out there are having trouble today, that's probably why. As we're doing this live just after 2 o'clock, we are still down on our front page. Now, the Insiders Forum, which obviously, see, the problem right now is that unless you have that bookmarked, you may not be able to get directly to it from our front page. So if you actually go to our Twitter, twitter.com/GamecockCentral, or I'm going to throw it in the comments right now. If you're a subscriber and just trying to get to our forum and still want to be able to chat on there, that URL is right there, and you can actually get directly to the forums. It's still up. It's still good to go. So if you want to talk about the game, talk about everything like that, then obviously you can still hit that on the forums there. So let's talk, like you said, a little bit of movement last night. It's kind of interesting, Chris. So Satterfield is a name, obviously a guy at Louisville that popped up, I would say, this time last year when it looked like there was a possibility South Carolina could have an opening. It seemed to me back then, man, the two names you heard the most were maybe Scott Satterfield and Billy Napier. I mean, those names were circulating, as far as like there's multiple places these things circulate. But I would say in the coaching community a year ago, those two names sort of were thrown out as here's interest in the South Carolina job. We did have Satterfield on our initial hot board. At the time, it was more of I don't want to say a hunch. It was a little bit stronger than that, but we weren't sure how much he would actually come into play. Then we hear that he is going to sort of come into play. And then it was interesting how quickly, because it's not like Satterfield's name had not been connected to the job. We had reported on him. Other people have reported on him. But then it seemed like once it was reported that there was an actual interview supposedly scheduled, we'll throw credit where it's due. When Josh Kendall said there was an interview, basically, it's like all of a sudden there was quite a bit of movement on the Louisville side, and a very quick statement from the Louisville AD, and then a very quick statement, not too much time after, of Scott Satterfield on Twitter. And it sounds like, I don't know if he got his hand caught in the cookie jar, like nobody over there really thought he was going to be a real candidate, or if there was sort of recruiting fallout they're worried about. That's always a factor here. But man, that thing, it moved pretty quick on their end.
It did. And so here's the thing. I'm going back to the sort of the timeline on this. So Muschamp was dismissed Sunday, November 15th. And like you said, Wes, we had Satterfield on our initial hot board that I think came out that following Monday morning. You correct me if I'm wrong. I think on Tuesday we mentioned, Tuesday or sometime around there that week, we mentioned that Satterfield was going to be a guy that was, going to be involved in some way with this job. And so what we do know is there was some back channel type of communication. That's how these things start. It's back channels. It's between, somebody on behalf of a coach or somebody on behalf of the university, somebody that knows some of those people. Sometimes it's donors. I mean, you've got a lot of different players, and it sort of progresses from there, maybe to an eventual interview or maybe not, depending on what happens. And so we do know that there was some interest expressed on the part of Satterfield, who, again, he's only been there. This is the second year, right? And so I think that was part of our question going in. He would have been a candidate, last time around if South Carolina had made a change, but would he be this time? But that question was answered because there was some smoke. Certainly, there's some legitimate smoke that he would be interested in the position. That's easy to explain away, right? Like if you're Scott Satterfield, or if you get asked about it in your AD, or it comes up, there's nothing really to it. Maybe it's just smoke. It's just people saying it on the internet. Maybe it's not right. When it advances to the point of then an interview or a potential for an interview is being reported, then you've got a little bit more of something tangible to latch onto to go, what's going on here, right? And so at that point, Satterfield eventually releases a statement. Some sourced reports come out, probably emanating from within the athletic department at Louisville, I would guess, that Satterfield's not going to pursue the job. And Vince Tyra, their athletics director, even told some people on the record that Satterfield was not going to pursue the job. So, that's just sort of how these things can go sometimes. And look, there are some names that have been connected with this job that I think it would not be a surprise to see multiple coaches who've been connected with this job, whatever happened behind the scenes, eventually come out with a new contract or come out with some things promised to them that maybe they were promised before and haven't gotten quite yet, et cetera. So that's sort of where things are with Satterfield in terms of what happened last night. A little bit of background on that situation too.
Yeah, and it was a carefully worded statement too. I'll say that these coaches are very good communicators as far as how they very specifically, Chris, say things, about their pursuit of jobs or if they were going to interview and stuff like that. It's very interesting how they word things. But man, I tell you, and I know obviously it's not over yet. Their coaching search is still ongoing. Interviews are still taking place. We still obviously are looking at that week after the season ends as a really big sort of landing spot, I think, as far as when this thing might end. But the momentum that Shane Beamer has gathered behind the scenes at this point is undeniable, I think. And really, it's just continued. He started building momentum from moment one. It seemed like, as far as the second we really started reporting on this thing, his momentum started going up, and it has continued to rise in the last few days. And the big thing to me, I think, is going to be who comes out of these interviews, if they even can someone else come out of these interviews contending, even with Beamer? Can somebody else blow the administration away? Because otherwise, this very real Shane Beamer momentum may be difficult for anybody else to catch at this point, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think if you are sort of handicapping this race, if you're doing the Vegas odds thing, again, then you would have to have Shane Beamer at the top of either of those lists. Now who gets sort of the official interview? I'm not even quite sure of that yet. We know of some guys that there's been some type of communication with, and that would be, of course, Beamer. Some of the other guys that have since maybe fallen off a little bit. Neil Brown is another one that we've mentioned. Jamie Chadwell, obviously from Coastal Carolina. There have been some others that were mentioned early that, has not advanced to the interview stage, may not advance to the interview stage. So some of that's still left to shake out, but you're right. I mean, that's really going to be the key, is how does the remainder of this process goes? Like I've said a few times, this candidate pool has already shrunk, and it's because for me, man, the days have been so long, the nights have been so long. It seems like a month ago that all this happened, and it hasn't been that long. It was the 15th, so it's been 10 days, and we've never expected a 50-day search like the one in December of 2015. I don't think we're going to get that. It looks like things are going to progress to the point where a hire can be made, right after the season or whenever that may be, that they're going to be able to get there soon. But you're right. I do think, and we don't know yet what'll happen, but somebody, if it's going to be somebody else, has to come along and continue to move up as Beamer has since the start of this process.
Lamont on Facebook asked, what's taking so long? And to that, Lamont, I would say, like Chris just said, it's been 10 days, y'all. I mean, things in real life do not move as fast as things do on the internet. There's an actual process to this. I mean, South Carolina literally 10 days ago fired a guy that they're going to have to pay over $13 million to. So there's obviously, when you're talking about firing a guy and paying him that much money to not coach, and putting yourself in a position to then pay someone millions of dollars to run your football program, there's obviously a process to this. You don't just say, fire a guy one day, hire a guy the next. There's a process involved. That sort of December 6th, December 7th, that week has always been the target date. So I don't think you can say they're taking too long. It's just, this is how the process works. As Chris said, they've had a target sort of date window for the entire time, and they appear to be on pace for that as well. So as promised, we're going to go out now to Collyn Taylor, Gamecock Central beat writer, obviously covers football, baseball, basketball, and a little bit of everything else for us at Gamecock Central. So bringing Collyn right now to talk a little bit of basketball, as the Gamecocks in women's and men's basketball tipping off today, an exhibition later on for the Gamecocks men's basketball team. Collyn, what's up?
How we doing? This is nice to finally be on again and enjoy seeing your smiling faces Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, man, we are here. We're getting ready for some basketball. So let's start with the women, because they're, I think, still playing. It could be over, but I know it's over regardless.
The minute they tip the ball off, let's be honest.
Yeah, the game is whether it's officially over or not, the game is over. So let's start there with this women's team. I know Chris Wellbaum obviously does a great job with our stuff, diving in. I think he dives into the women's basketball program as much or more than anyone else out there. But you can give us maybe a broad overview. Is this team the favorite to be the best team in the country again? Because, man, I know they didn't get to actually defend that honor of being the number one team in the tournament last year. But for my money, they certainly seem to be the best team in the country last year.
Yeah, they're going to be the best team last year. They're going to be the best team this year, and they're going to be the best team for like the next 4 years. It feels like. I think they're the favorite to win the title. I wouldn't be shocked if they went undefeated to a title. They're good. If you ask me to overview this team, they're good. They're great. They're probably the most complete and elite team in the entire country. And they should, if they're not the favorites to win the title, I can't think of why they wouldn't be. They're close up there.
All right, so tell us a little bit personnel-wise about this team. Broad overview. Obviously, one of the sort of hallmarks of last year was a young talent. You look out there and they have 3 freshman starters last year on that team that was really, really good. They returned those. Tell us about maybe some of their progression and just roster outlook overall, sort of the depth that this team's going to feature.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Ty Harris and Makia Herbert Harrigan, who are obviously staples to that title team, and then but you have Aaliyah Boston, you have Zaya Cook, you have Bria Beal, you have that number 1 recruiting class that you had. I guess it would have been for the 2020 class or 2019 class, and they're all sophomores now, and they played a lot as freshmen. So they're progressing well. You're going to see a lot of them this year. And it sets up obviously things for the future as well, because they're only 19 years old instead of 18. So they're going to be really good. And then Anaya Russell, obviously, that freshman phenom that they're going to have for a while too, is going to play, and she's going to play a lot as well. And they just have a lot of really young talent to mix with some. It's young, but it's not inexperienced. How about that? It's talent that's been around the block for the SEC 1 year, and they know what what to do, and I think that's going to benefit them a lot.
I appreciate you, T. Thompson, on Facebook. She says the women's basketball team has finished off that game with a 119-38 win. So a pure domination there for the women's team. And so tonight, Collyn, South Carolina fans will get their first look at the 2020-2021 men's basketball team. South Carolina tipping off with an exhibition game against Coker, Colonial Life Arena. That'll be on SEC Network Plus, 6:30 p.m. And so Collyn, I know other than the fact that Frank Martin is now bald, apparently, we learned that, shaved his head. What else did you sort of take away from Frank's meeting with the media, as he sort of it almost seems like we just were talking about basketball ending last year with no tournament. And I remember Frank talking, about Mike Kotsar and those guys not getting one last chance to play. And now here we are getting ready to tip this thing off again. What was Frank's message to y'all earlier this week when he spoke to the media? Man,
they're going to be good. He is very optimistic about this group and the depth they have. I mean, when you return 4 starters in Jermaine Couisnard, AJ Lawson, Keyshawn Bryant, and Justin Minaya, and then you factor in how much talent they had and experience they had last year with Jalen McCreary off the bench, Seventh Woods coming off that sit-out year, and they've reports out of practice and camp with him have been, over the moon happy with his progression. So they're very happy with that. And Frank joked that the local media doesn't hype them up well. Over the course of the off season. Well, Frank, if you are listening to this is a NCAA tournament team. This is a team that has 2 potential all SEC players on it, and AJ Lawson and Jermaine Couisnard. And I wouldn't be shocked if Keyshawn Bryant was all SEC by the end of the year. This is a team that not only has the talent to compete for an NCAA tournament spot, I could see them playing on the second weekend of the year. I think they're that deep and that talented.
So Frank Martin, obviously, what's up, Coach? Spending his time watching our stream. I'm sure he does every day. They
have nothing else going on today.
He sits there and watches and yells at the screen because we don't talk enough basketball, I'm sure.
Frank, this is who you are. I have high hopes for this team. I think this team's going to be very, very good.
So here's a question I have about the team. Well, I actually got a couple, so I'll ask one, and then we'll let Wes go, and we'll just trade off here. But my first one is this, and Frank addressed this the other day. he said, you can't lose to Stetson at home, right? Like they did last year. And so that's been one thing that has at times been a hindrance. You know, they've had some close misses in terms of being on the bubble for the NCAA. And they've typically had, or I don't want to say typically, but they've had in the past some non-conference losses that have proved detrimental, you know, early in the season. So, you know, what's the feel around that? I know Frank addressed it the other day. Give us a little bit more detail on what he's saying about the early part of, you know, their scheduling.
Yeah, they can't lose at home. He harped on that in his press conference. Harped on that, saying, "Listen, we cannot lose home games." I mean, you look 2 years ago, they lost to Stony Brook, and they lost Stony Brook at home, and then lost at Wyoming, which was the team that ended up being not good that year. Then last year, obviously, the Stetson game comes to mind, and they lost to Illinois State the year after the Final Four. You just can't lose those kinds of games and expect to be a tournament team. That's just the bottom line. And a lot of that had to do with inexperience in Frank's system. A lot of young guys playing. Guys, you know, you look back to Chris Silva's junior year, he was still growing into a leadership role. Last year, you really didn't have a vocal leader on the team until Jermaine Couisnard stepped up in SEC play. And so this year, they feel a lot better about where they are because, look, I mean, you have guys that have played a lot of basketball. AJ Lawson's a 3-year starter going into this year. He started the last 2 years. Keyshawn Bryant, same way. Jermaine Couisnard's more, you know, has a better feel for things. Justin Minaya feels like he's been here 10 years at this point. So they have, when you have guys like that who understand the ins and outs and the consistency it takes to play and day in and day out, you should win more games than not, and it shouldn't be a trip up period in non-conference play. Because look, listen, we were all 18, 19 years old at one point. You telling me you're a consistent at 18 or 19, I'll show you a liar, essentially. So you have now it's 20 and 21-year-olds kind of understand things a little bit more, and you should be better in non-conference this year.
The game again tonight on SEC Network Plus. By the way, Craig, I saw I lost it now, but I saw a chat. It's SEC Network Plus, not alternate. So even if you have YouTube TV, anybody that wants to watch the game, basically any of your streaming services or streaming devices, you know, Roku, Fire Stick, stuff like that, just get the ESPN app and then log in with your YouTube TV account and or your Hulu account. As long as whatever network you already use, whatever service you already use has SEC Network, then log into that ESPN app and you should be able to watch the game tonight. I think it's on like everything now, so you should be good on that. Okay, so I mentioned earlier Mike Kotsar. To me, obviously that's the guy, Collyn, that South Carolina's going to miss the most. Clearly, they're going to have to replace down low. As far as their post presence this year, who are the guys that you feel either have to step up or maybe even in practice have sort of already shown signs that they are stepping up? Who are the guys down low? Because I think we all know about the other guys, you know, AJ Lawson, Jermaine Couisnard, Keyshawn Bryant. It's going to be a super athletic team, a super deep team. But when they really need a post presence, who are the guys that you think Frank will be counting on this year?
Yeah, it's going to be probably your top two guys to start at that center spot are going to be Wildens Vivek and Alonzo Frank. And then you're going to see Jalen McCreary play a lot as well. So if I'm filling out a starting lineup tonight, Wildens Vivek's going to be your starting center on Saturday when they play Liberty. And just because he's the only guy 6'10" or above on the roster right now. Long, athletic, can give you some rim protection, which is so important to what Frank Martin wants to do defensively and offensively with offensive rebounding. So that's important. And I think, too, you're going to see they're very happy with all three of those guys, the McCreary, Frank, and Levesque of the world. And McCreary they've sung his praises since the minute they started doing media availability leading into this, just knocking down his jump shot, hitting those more consistently, being able to play with the ball in his hands and put it on the deck. And I think that's positive for South Carolina. If you can have a bunch of different ball handlers on the floor that can knock down jump shots, and then obviously you know what Jalen McCreary and Wilton Zavek and Alonzo Frink can do when they get in the paint. And so they're very, very happy with those three guys. And then Javon Benson's a freshman, who they feel very, very good about long term. Obviously, could see some minutes this year. Kind of chicken with his head cut off at the moment because he's a freshman, but they like his long term prognosis, and they're very happy with the progression they've seen from the front court, even if it is guys that haven't necessarily seen the starting experience the way Mike Kotsar and Chris Silva had going into their senior years.
So Wes actually stole my question on that one.
Good like that.
Anticipated and stole. And so I will
the South Carolina guards are going to do tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
If they don't, I mean.
So I will pivot. And my last question for you on men's Gamecock hoops, Collyn, will be, tell us a little bit more about Seventh Woods, if you will. You know, you mentioned how some of the reviews coming out of practice are really strong. And so obviously with Seventh being a South Carolina guy, former highly rated guard, transfer in, there's just a lot of intrigue around him. So maybe tell us what to expect, what you've heard, what's being said out of the program on him.
Right. I mean, they're very high on what Seventh can do. And especially just from a defensive side of things. I mean, I remember talking to Chuck Martin and Bruce Shingler, two assistants that obviously worked with them right when the pandemic started. And they were like, listen, he went up against, at North Carolina, he was going up against pros every day in practice defensively. And that helps you understand angles and leverage. And if he can give you a point of attack defender coming off the bench, or even if you want to start him, that helps. It helps add some pressure. It helps. And he's such a good facilitator, and he's such a good guy to get to the rim that it's going to help things offensively, because they didn't have a guy that could consistently get to the rim last year outside of maybe a Jermaine Couisnard. So that helps. Obviously, he's going to have to improve his jump shot, show some improvements there to be able to knock down contested jumpers, keep the defense honest. But they're very high on him and his ability to help defensively and kind of run the point and do things Frank Martin's asking you to do from an offensive standpoint in terms of play efficient basketball, get teammates involved, and run things to where you're not, clunky and trying to force things offensively.
So let's go the other way with all this, Collyn. Let's, Frank, if you're still watching, you won't like this one, but what are your concerns about this team? As in, okay, we've talked about sort of the not best case scenario, but if things go well, what are the issues on this team that you think sort of, if maybe we're underestimating or overestimating some part or some factor with this team that could pop up as an issue at some point this year, other than just the unpredictable, any team that has injuries to a number of guys, something like that can always happen. But is there anything about this team that stands out as a concern for you?
Well, first of all, the injuries, you have to stay healthy. You've had guys go down with injuries at big points the last 2 years. So that's priority number one. Second of all, free throw shooting needs to be better. Some guys struggled last year at the line, and you can't foul. I mean, they were, I think, the worst team in Division I basketball last year in opponent free throw rate. I mean, teams were getting to the line like in exponentially high numbers against them. So obviously you need to improve that. That's a concern, that if you foul too much, you tend to not win games. So that help needs to be better. And we talked about the bigs, and at this point, for lack of a better term, it's, put up or shut up. You need to prove that these bigs can go out there and rebound at an SEC level. And, you're not going to go out there and ask them to put up 15 and 9 every night, but they need to give you some spark offensively and do enough on the boards on both ends of the court to help you to keep you in games. So that's a big thing. That's a big question mark for this team. And now if the bigs can come out and play well, then you should have a good team. But if not, then you're going to kind of have to do some smoke and mirrors and make things happen rebounding wise. But those are the biggest questions right now. And obviously making sure everyone stays on that kind of upward trajectory in terms of development, and no one takes a step back because these guys are really good, and they need to keep getting better for South Carolina to do what they want to do.
Sorry, Wes, I lost my connection there or something for a second. Things froze up on me.
No, you're good, man.
So Collyn, a lot of people say, last one for you for me on the basketball team. You know, a lot of people are thinking NCAA tournament or bust, whatever that means for this team. You said earlier, realistic expectations or potential maybe for you is get to the, the second round or so. Is it a disappointment if they don't make the tournament? Like, is it potential NCAA tournament team with potential to advance, or is it this team is so good that should be the expectation? How would you classify that?
I mean, it's always hard making the tournament's difficult.
Sure.
I think the expectation should be to make the tournament. I think you're in year 9 under Frank Martin. And the expectation should be to make the tournament. Frank Martin's expectation, the staff's expectation is to make the tournament. And they're going to be disappointed if they don't. But you also have to understand that college basketball is very deep. There's a lot of good teams out there and things happen. But the expectations, obviously, it would be disappointing for the fan base, for the coaching staff, for the players to not make the tournament. But you understand, too, that sometimes things happen and injuries happen and other good teams play the sport, too. So you kind of got to take it on the whole in totality. And I know a lot of people want to talk about one tournament in 8 years, or really 7 years since they didn't have one last year. But there's a lot that goes into it, from building a program to get to where you could make the tournament to kind of having hit the reset button the last couple years. And you had some extenuating circumstances there that caused them to kind of have to rebuild things and restock some cupboards. And they're at that point now where I think that they're going to be consistently competing for tournament spots over the next 2, 3, 4 years, if they continue the way they're recruiting right now.
And Collyn, speaking of circumstances, will still be a very different year this year. COVID-19 protocols. I already saw some of the pictures from the women's game. Obviously fans are going to be spread out. What, and I don't know if Frank talked about, I'm sure he probably did. What protocols do you think that are maybe our listeners would want to hear about that are in place right now? I know football has their specific things they've had to do. Is there anything, is it mask on if you're not in the game? I think the chairs, maybe even for the players, are spread out more. What are sort of the big protocols that South Carolina is having to use because of COVID?
Yeah, so I think they're testing this week 5 times, just this week alone, before they go out to Kansas City. I think that they're going to test in season 3 times a week. I think it's the same as football. So the testing protocols from the SEC standpoint are the same. I think they're going to wear the same wristband things that everyone else wears to keep contact tracing stuff situated, and spreading the benches out. You're wearing a mask if you're not, in the game. Everyone that travels with the party or is on the court side, whether that's scores or whatever, has to comply with testing protocols. So it looks a lot like football in terms of kind of how they're doing things with food and with everything else. So not much deviation from that. In South Carolina, football luckily has not had a major COVID outbreak, at least publicly, or hasn't had a game delayed. So you kind of hope for the same thing, at least from South Carolina's perspective in hoops, even though that's a little bit taller of a task.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to follow that. I think we got to prepare ourselves. There will be, whether it's South Carolina or others, other teams are already dealing with it. There will be games that are postponed. There will be games that are canceled. It's going to be a part of life, but it does seem like, much like football, I think we'll be able to get through it. We'll be able to move forward and have a basketball season, which is obviously great for everybody involved. Let's talk a little bit of football while we got you, Collyn. Obviously, Mike Bobo. I personally think Mike Bobo has been a breath of fresh air with his at least his media dealings. Some good press conferences, some good information, some injury updates, some depth charts.
Weird. I like it.
Yeah, it's been. I think he's tried to just do everything opposite of Muschamp as far as the media stuff goes. But tough task for South Carolina, obviously, this week. I struggle to find a path for South Carolina to actually win this game, short of Georgia just plays awful. Just has a terrible game and just is completely off their game. But Dude, so then, Collyn, you find out the injury list is really even longer than we thought coming in. Is there a path for you? Is there a path for South Carolina to pull an upset on Saturday?
I mean, if we're describing what the path looks like, it's like cracked ground, like a bunch of rocks everywhere. There's probably a snake pit to the side, like if you try it, like fall in. So there's a path. It's going to have to look a lot like what it did last year, where you jump out to a big lead and the defense holds and forces 3 turnovers, and you have a pick 6 and they miss a field goal. It's going to look a lot like that if you go and beat them. So it's like you said, it's a tough task, and they're kind of strung together with chewed up gum and paper clips and rubber bands like a MacGyver bomb. But I mean, at this point, you never say never, but this Georgia team's good. And this Georgia team, I think, is going to come in knowing it needs to play really well to kind of maintain that top. I think they're top 10 or top 15 right now in the rankings. And they're going to want to come out, and I think they're going to be a little bit pissed off after last year too.
So, but take it, Collyn, from I got a couple more fun ones for you. First, all right, going to take it off football for a second to one of your favorite topics, and that is socks. All right. Wes was wondering where I was going with that. So,
not my food.
Dead Soxy, one of our sponsors here on the show. Collyn, I know you were going to take advantage of the buy one, get one free deal that Dead Soxy has going on right now. DEADSOXY. All of our listeners need to take advantage too. Promo code SPUR. Wes just put it up if you're on the stream. Buy one, get one free. Put 2 pairs of socks of any type, non-slip, no-show socks, or the boardroom dress sock line. You can get one of equal or lesser value free. You can use it as many times as you want. Collyn, you have some very colorful socks like Dead Soxy features, so I know you will like them if you have not gotten them already. Hopefully, your new lovely wife is going to get you some Dead Soxy socks for Christmas or even for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's listening. I would gladly appreciate them. Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, a little bit more of a fun one for you. There hasn't been as much fun on the football beat this year, right, in terms of some of the excitement and things like that. But Mike Bobo bringing some new things. Who's been your favorite interview this year? You're at, well, I was going to say you're at all the press conference, but virtually you're at all the press conferences. Who have you enjoyed talking with the most this year?
I'll say my press conference setup looks a lot like this too. So let's see. Deshaun Fenwick's been really fun. He's been fun, and obviously Nick Muse. There's never a boring moment with Nick Muse. And Nick, if you're
watching media fat,
hey, trust me, I understand it. When I'm on plate 4 tomorrow, I'm going to be like, damn it, Nick Muse was right. So those two have been my absolute favorites, and Deshaun's been his storytelling ability in like 30-second spurts is just, it's phenomenal. So anytime we get those two, and Luke Doty, we got a freshman, so that was probably one of my favorite interviews of the year so far. Shout out Mike Bobo and Steve Fink for making that happen, and it's been nice to kind of talk to some young bucks for a change.
And Luke, obviously a young guy that can handle. I mean, he's been doing really good interviews since he was in like 8th grade, I think. I am as impressed as I am with Gamecock Nation that they came up with a not Jeff Munkin Twitter account within 20 seconds of College Game Day mentioning Jeff Munkin. I am disappointed that they have not come up with a Luke Doty's hair Twitter account, because I do think, his hair deserves its own thing. So, all right, we got to go Thanksgiving talk for a second. Oof. Because I'm going to give Collyn the GC Live platform in order to give what I'm sure is going to be an awful food take. Those of you who don't follow Collyn on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle?
Collyn Taylor. Spell it just like it is right there on the
wow, yeah, that's easy. At Collyn Taylor. If you want decent sports takes and awful food takes,
wow, we're giving my sports takes decent, which is something else.
Go follow Collyn on Twitter. But by the way, the chat folks can get in on this as well. Favorite Thanksgiving let's say favorite food. You don't have to give your whole meal. Favorite Thanksgiving food. But for Collyn, what's going to be on your plate tomorrow?
Okay.
And of the things on your plate, what's your favorite?
So my wife makes a phenomenal macaroni and cheese in the crock pot, and it is one of my favorite foods, not only on Thanksgiving, but just year round. Whenever she makes it is phenomenal. So
is it weird yet for you to say my wife?
I called her my fiance the other day, and I like caught myself doing it. I've called her by her last or maiden name a couple times in conversation.
Yeah.
And that's been weird too. But she makes a phenomenal macaroni and cheese, which I feel like I would get berated if I didn't say that was my favorite. So I'll start there as my favorite thing. And I'll usually go white meat turkey. I'm not a big dark meat turkey fan. And then probably stuffing. I call it stuffing.
Oh, point Doc there.
I know. I'm sorry. I like green bean casserole. Big rolls guy. Yams. Can't get enough on Thanksgiving. Some yams.
Candied yams or just plain, you know what, yams?
Okay, Al, first of all, candied yams. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And then we usually do like some corn. So I'll eat some corn, or we did corn casserole a couple years ago. And that was pretty good. And then for dessert, we'll go pumpkin pie. This is my kind of standard go-to there.
That was shockingly normal. Except for the stuffing. Wes looks like frazzled by it. I think
I'm not. I'm frazzled because he didn't mess that one up.
I'm just as shocked as you are. Trust me.
It's hard. Here's what we're learning. It's hard to mess up a Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if y'all saw Dan Mullen and his Thanksgiving meal take today.
Bad.
But okay, so for y'all who didn't see it, Dan Mullen takes his mashed potatoes and his dressing and everything else, and he said he mixes it up, whips it up. But
like
okay, I'm not mixing mine up. But here's the Thanksgiving question: is your food touching or not?
It can touch. Now, I'm not going to sit there and like pile it on top of each other, but if it slips and slides and you end up touching, I'm not going to sit there and be upset about it.
Chris?
I'm going to the same place.
Yeah, I'm a Collyn on that. It doesn't have to, when you say it, like you have like a centimeter of separation and it has to be that way, I'm not that like OCD about it. Like it can touch and that's fine. I'm not mixing it.
Some because some people are all about it can't touch.
And are those the same people that eat like, okay, I'm going to eat all of my green bean casserole first?
That's me. I'm a
you do that? Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that. I eat my rolls first, and then I go mac and cheese. Then I think I go turkey.
What?
Usually
you don't get like a little bit of this and a little bit of this.
No.
And
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going around. I'm like counterclockwise.
Yeah.
Like.
All right. So I'm gonna give y'all my Thanksgiving game plan, my approach. So you start out. I don't whip it up. If you say you whip it up, that sounds disgusting. So Mullen needs to work on his delivery, which, as I'm saying that, seems like a big issue with him in press conferences.
Yeah.
He needs to work on his delivery. The actual message, the content isn't that bad, but the delivery of how you're saying it just sounds disgusting. So, all right, take the rice, okay? If you have rice at your Thanksgiving, take the rice. Put the rice down as the platform. Then take cornbread dressing. It's dressing, not stuffing. Collyn, sorry. It is cornbread dressing. You put dressing on top of the rice. Then, this is where I'm about to lose y'all a little bit, but take some of that weird cranberry sauce, the nasty kind from a can. Take some of that and trust me, put this on there as well on top of the dressing. Then take some turkey, throw that on top of that. Then take some gravy and take the gravy all over the top of that. Now, don't whip it up, but eat it just like that, and you will have the perfect combination of textures, a little bit of sweetness from the cranberry, some saltiness from the gravy, and my grandma's recipe of cornbread dressing, which is the best that's ever been made. And it is phenomenal.
We will not do that.
Yeah.
No.
You're making a weird Thanksgiving burrito sandwich thing, and I can't.
Dude, I'm so let's see. Oh man. I
didn't have the worst food take today.
We got some reactions on here.
Today.
We got some reactions. So no, all right, no, y'all wouldn't eat that?
No, you lost me with the cranberry is a no. It's a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
I don't want cranberry. No. I was telling my wife that yesterday. That cranberry on turkey does not make sense to me. And it certainly doesn't make sense in the context of whatever that was. Do you have a name for that?
Awful. What it's called?
No, it's called Thanksgiving goodness.
It's like a volcano of awful.
Yeah.
Now
I am loving the reactions.
What about the turkey? The post.
Oh, Collyn's wife is on here.
Oh,
nice. How about the post?
That is very true. Michaela says that Collyn would never eat that. No. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, you're good. The post, like food coma, wake up, and I'm not really that hungry, but I should eat more turkey sandwich.
Yes.
All right. Now, of course, this year it will be had in the game day chair, sponsored by Affordable Medical USA. While you're watching Thanksgiving festivities, whether it's, football or whatever you happen to be watching, you'll be chilling in the game day chair. Make sure you give those guys a call or affordablemedicalusa.com. But what is on your turkey sandwich? Me? You put mac and cheese on the sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a take.
Easy.
I'm mayo and salt and pepper and soft bread. Don't toast it.
All right. See, now I'm a little gun shy about. No, I don't care.
Another bad one. You have another.
No, it's not. It's nothing I've said is bad. Everything I've said is great.
Cranberry sauce on the sandwich.
Boom. Yes. Take. All right.
Ruined.
Make your turkey sandwich, y'all. Make a little bit of cranberry mayo, and that's not a me thing. That's a thing. That's a thing. That is a thing. Make some cranberry mayo, turkey. Toast the bread, throw some cheese on there. Money.
Cranberry and cheese?
Yeah, dude, they literally make cheese with cranberry in it. That is a thing you can buy at the grocery store.
You mix?
Yeah, cranberry mayo is just cranberry sauce and mayo mixed together.
You whip
and
it
if
up.
if you really want to take it to the next level, put some bacon on there.
Goodness, man.
Turkey bacon. That's a sandwich at Witch. That's on their menu. Their Thanksgiving sandwich. But they actually put dressing on their sandwich. So man, I am getting some reactions today.
This is crazy. Plot twist on this thing, man. We brought Collyn in partially just so we could troll him over bad food takes.
And I am not the food taker on this menu. Yeah,
Collyn's the most reasonable.
Exactly. I'm throwing out mac and cheese turkey sandwiches, which is an elite sandwich, by the way. So
that is it. No, I think I would try that. Yeah, I'm out on the cranberry for sure.
You got to smush it really tight though. Like you got to really get the sandwich pressed together because the mac and cheese can fall out. But it's elite. But then if the mac and cheese falls out, then you just have an extra side of mac and cheese. So
this is true.
Bobby asks, "Am I even Southern?" That's not some Yankee meal.
It's not anywhere. It's not an anywhere meal.
No, dude. Cranberry mayo is not that far fetched of a thing.
I'm Googling it right now.
Type in cranberry mayo, you'll see it. It's not some wild thought. All right, we gotta get off food.
Yeah,
y'all can't handle my food
takes.
It looks
disgusting. It looks awful.
Michaela says, Collyn, when have you ever ate that?
I haven't eaten it. It looks disgusting. Are we talking about my mac and cheese sandwich?
Yeah, I think that's what she's talking about.
Oh yeah, well, she makes me eat real food.
Okay, all right. Austin Smoke You are the caller of the day. Apparently, that's a sandwich at Publix.
I've seen that. Yeah.
So why are you acting like it's a
I
crazy
still think
idea?
it's weird. I still think it's weird.
It's
I remember seeing that on the menu. I mean, if you take the cranberry out of that, that's a good one. Yeah.
But cranberry provides a little bit of sweetness
I
to go
understand.
along
Yeah,
with
no,
the saltiness.
we
It's
get
a
the flavor
balance thing.
profile. We get the flavor profile. It just sounds disgusting.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if I'll even have any cranberry anywhere at Thanksgiving. If I do have some, I will try what you said, and I will report back.
And you will love it. SC Scout guy said, "Are we using Duke's mayo? Absolutely, it has to be Duke's, nothing else." So anyway, we are off. We are off the rails here. I was trying to figure out if there was a Shane train reference to add in there too, because everybody's talking about the Shane train on Twitter with Beamer, but I don't think it goes in with off the rails or any of that. So Collyn, we're gonna let you go. Your wife says for you to get off of here, I think, and that you've never had a macaroni and cheese sandwich. So we'll let you go, man. We appreciate it, and I'm glad that we were able to do this food take deal, and that I was able to educate you on some great post Thanksgiving meals.
I feel learned. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, Collyn. Have a good one. See you, man.
Thanks, Collyn.
I don't know where to go from there, Chris.
Yeah, I think if we had just ended it abruptly, it would have been, everybody would have understood. But no, I will try. I will try your cranberry concoction, and I would encourage anybody at home to do it too. And come back on. Let's see. We'll be back on Friday, I guess. And we can all give our takes on your cranberry, whatever that was.
Justin says my food takes are the culinary equivalent of Chadwell's offense at Coastal. That's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah. Right.
I would think.
Yeah.
All right. What else we all want to talk about? Y'all got any questions? Y'all need any recipes? The instructions aren't hard. Josh says Chadwell can kick rocks. That is aggressive. All right, so I asked Collyn, Chris, do you think South Carolina has any chance to win this game on Saturday?
Oh, I hardly ever go into any game, any opponent saying that one or the other has no chance to win. But I am on the same page as you in that the path, to victory is extremely difficult here. The injury list in terms of guys, and some of it is just guys that are questionable, but man, it is long. I mean, it's Shi Smith's out, so there's your biggest receiving threat. Then you got everything like Nick Muse being banged up. You've already got Aaron Sterling. He's been down for the year. You're missing 3 DBs, but then you've got other guys that are questionable on the defensive line and in the secondary. And so Georgia, has enough talent to hurt you anyways, but maybe they figured it out at quarterback a little bit with JT Daniels, and that defense can fly around for Georgia. And you just don't really see a great path for South Carolina to move the ball up and down the field and score. You really don't. It's going to be really hard, I think, to manufacture on either side of the ball. And, it does have the recipe of a game that could potentially get out of hand. And I'm sure they'll try to manage that. You don't want to go into a game expecting a loss if you're South Carolina, but I think everybody in that building probably knows the reality of how the season's gone, where they're at, that this is going to be a really tall order. Just calling it like it is.
Yeah, we got several questions about injuries. Brad Johnson is out. Craig, Nick Muse is questionable, I guess, but also it sounded like there's a decent chance he will play. That I think they were sort of projecting that he could be good to go by Saturday. Joyner was questionable, but sort of moving up into the sort of probable area, I would guess. He did practice on a limited basis on Tuesday, so he'll probably be back out there, I would guess, if he progresses as expected. Still no quarterback. South Carolina will not make an announcement. I'm guessing they may just trot somebody out there. My guess is you're going to see Luke Doty. Obviously, I'm not reporting that as a fact or anything, but that's my guess is that you're going to see Luke Doty on Saturday and see him get a chance. Again, I gave my take on that yesterday. I see both sides, but certainly if South Carolina is going to have any chance to move the ball without Shi Smith, then having Luke's running ability is really, I don't know, man, that may be their only path that they feel like they have to being able to make some first downs and stay on the field offensively. So we will certainly see from there. No show on Thursday. There will be a show on Friday. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Chris, you got anything else, man?
No, one other note, just before we get off here, George Wilson, the Virginia edge rusher, has also announced his decommitment from South Carolina. So that was actually one that one of the first ones that we sort of pinpointed to probably expect. So he's another one that South Carolina has lost, obviously in this time of transition. So we will see where things go from here. It's going to be an interesting and probably very busy recruiting period whenever the new coach is hired. But George Wilson also backs off his commitment, joins Jaden Johnson out of Georgia, Simeon Price from Florida, Bryce Steele out of North Carolina, and Rodarius Thomas out of Alabama. So what's that, 5, I think, decommitments?
5 with, I would say, at least one more to come.
Yeah, I think see another one, maybe even today.
Yeah, so and maybe more after that, but certainly something we expected. But we'll see what that number ends up being. And these things sort of maybe have a little momentum sometimes. I feel like that guys see other kids decommitting and they sort of start to feel a little bit more ready to do it themselves. So we'll certainly keep tracking that on GamecockCentral.com. All right, y'all, for Chris, I'm Wes. Again, hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Try my wonderful recipes. I promise you, if you try it, you'll like it. Anyway, see y'all Friday.